Maya Johnson stood in the doorway of Miami's most exclusive oceanfront hotel, her burgundy dress catching the golden light of crystal chandeliers. Every head turned. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the string quartet seemed to miss a note. Bae Min-jun's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. This couldn't be the same woman he'd passed countless times in the hallways of his building without a second glance. The cleaning woman his subordinate had invited as a cruel joke. But those eyes, intelligent, defiant, unflinching, were unmistakable. She didn't belong here. Everyone in this room knew it. The gathered mafia bosses, corrupt officials, and underground elite could smell an outsider. Yet, she walked forward with her chin high, refusing to shrink under their stares. Someone laughed, a sharp mocking sound that cut through the silence. Min-jun's jaw tightened. His hand moved to his side where he always kept a blade. Because in that moment, watching Maya Johnson stand alone against a room full of wolves, something inside him shifted. Something dangerous. Something he couldn't take back. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be nothing. But now, looking at her, Min-jun realized he'd made a terrible mistake. She was everything. 3 weeks earlier, Maya Johnson pushed her cleaning cart through the pristine marble lobby of the Apex Tower in downtown Miami. At 2 a.m., the 50-story building belonged to her and the other night shift workers. The invisible army that kept the wealthy world running while everyone else slept. She was tired, bone deep, soul-way tired. The kind that came from working 2 jobs, barely sleeping, and still coming up short every month. But Maya had learned long ago that survival didn't care about exhaustion. Floor 48, she muttered to herself, checking her assignment sheet. The executive suite, always the messiest despite being used the least. The elevator hummed as it climbed. Maya caught her reflection in the polished brass doors, 28 years old, with rich brown skin that glowed even under fluorescent lights and natural hair pulled back into a practical bun. Her grandmother used to say she had presence, that intangible quality that made people look twice. Not that anyone looked at her here. To them, she was furniture, part of the background. The 48th floor was dark, except for one office at the end of the hall. Lights spilled from under the door, and Maya heard voices, sharp, tense, speaking in rapid Korean. She'd learned to recognize the language over the past 6 months. The building's owner was Korean, though she'd never seen him, just heard whispers, warnings from other workers to stay invisible, keep quiet, never asked questions. Maya started with the cubicles, working efficiently. She'd perfected the art of being thorough while making no sound. It was a survival skill in places like this. The office door opened suddenly. A man emerged, young, arrogant, wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He barely glanced at her. "You cleaning woman." His English was accented but clear. "Come here." Maya's stomach tightened. Nothing good ever came from being singled out. But she approached, keeping her expression neutral. "Yes, sir." He looked her up and down with something that made her skin crawl. Not desire, contempt, like she was something amusing he discovered. "What's your name?" "Maya Johnson." He smiled. It wasn't kind. Very American. "You work here every night." He pulled out a business card, gold embossed and heavy. "There's an event 3 weeks from now. The Oceanic Grand Hotel. You're invited." Maya stared at the card. This had to be a joke. Women like her didn't get invited to events at 5-star hotels. "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand. Just show up. 8 p.m. formal attire." His smile widened. "Consider it a reward for your hard work." He walked away before she could respond, leaving Maya standing in the empty hallway with a business card that felt like a trap in her hand. Behind her, she didn't notice the second man who'd emerged from the office. Bae Min-jun stood in the shadows, watching the entire exchange with cold, calculating eyes. He'd heard his subordinate cruel plan, heard the mocking tone, seen the smirk, and he'd said nothing. Because in his world, cruelty was currency. Weakness was death. And caring about a cleaning woman, any woman, was the fastest way to lose respect and power. But even as he returned to his office, Min-jun found himself remembering the woman's face. The way she'd stood straight despite her obvious confusion, the dignity in her posture, even while wearing a cleaning uniform. Pathetic, he muttered to himself, getting soft over a woman he'd never even properly seen. He had an empire to run, enemies to crush, a reputation that kept men twice his age afraid to meet his eyes. He didn't have time for distractions. 3 weeks later, Maya stood outside her tiny apartment in Little Haiti, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The dress had cost her 2 weeks of grocery money from her second job, burgundy silk, that hugged her curves and fell to her ankles, simple but elegant. Her best friend, Tiana, had done her hair, natural curls cascading over her shoulders, minimal makeup that let her natural beauty shine through. "Girl, you look like royalty," Tiana breathed. "But are you sure about this? Something feels off." Maya had the same feeling. The invitation made no sense. But she'd learned long ago that opportunities, even strange ones, didn't come often for women like her. If there was even a chance this could lead to something better, she had to take it. "I'll be fine," she said with more confidence than she felt. "It's just one night." The Uber ride to the Oceanic Grand Hotel felt like crossing into another dimension. From her neighborhood of faded buildings and corner stores to the gleaming waterfront, where luxury yachts bobbed in the marina and palm trees swayed in the ocean breeze, Maya's hands trembled slightly as she approached the entrance. A doorman in white gloves opened the massive doors without question, and she stepped into a world of marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the kind of wealth she'd only seen in movies. "May I see your invitation?" A woman in a crisp black suit appeared beside her. Maya handed over the gold embossed card. The woman's eyebrows rose slightly. Surprise or judgment, Maya couldn't tell, but she gestured toward the grand ballroom. "The gala is through those doors. Enjoy your evening." Maya took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked forward. The ballroom doors opened, and the world stopped. Every eye in the room turned toward her. EIA felt the weight of their stares like physical pressure against her skin. The conversations didn't just pause. They died completely. Even the string quartet seemed to falter. For a moment, panic clawed at her throat. This was a mistake. Whatever joke they were playing, she'd walked right into it. But Maya Johnson hadn't survived 28 years by shrinking when people expected her to break. She lifted her chin and walked forward, each step deliberate and proud. The room was filled with power. She could feel it radiating from the men in expensive suits, the women dripping in diamonds. This wasn't just wealth. This was something darker, more dangerous. Well, the man who'd given her the invitation appeared at her elbow, that same cruel smile on his face. "You actually came. I didn't think you'd have the nerve." "Why wouldn't I?" Maya kept her voice steady. "You invited me." "I did, didn't I?" He gestured around the room. "What do you think? Is this everything you dreamed about being here with your betters?" The insult was clear. Several people nearby laughed. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she refused to look away. "I think," she said quietly, "that money and manners don't always come together." The laughter stopped. The man's face darkened. "You need to learn your place," Mr. A voice cut through the tension like a blade. Deep, controlled, carrying absolute authority. "You're needed elsewhere." The man Choi went rigid. "Sir, I was just now." Choi bowed slightly and disappeared into the crowd. Maya turned toward the voice and found herself looking up at the most striking man she'd ever seen. Ba Min-jun was tall for a Korean man, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to see everything. His black suit was perfectly tailored, and he moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being questioned. There was something about him, an intensity that made her breath catch. "Miss Johnson," he said her name like he'd known it all along. "I apologize for Mr. Choi's behavior. He sometimes forgets himself. You know my name. I know everything that happens in my building." His eyes traveled over her face, and Maya felt exposed. "Seen, though I must admit, I never truly looked before tonight. Your building, the Apex Tower, where you work, you're very thorough, by the way. The executive floor is always spotless." Maya's mind raced. This man owned the building, which meant he was the one people whispered about the dangerous one. "Thank you for the compliment," she said carefully, "though I'm still not sure why I was invited here." Something flickered across Min-jun's face. Regret maybe, or anger. Choi thought it would be amusing. He heard me complaining about incompetent associates and decided to make a joke. Invite the cleaning woman to see her out of place. The honesty surprised her. "And you allowed it." He held her gaze. "I'm not a good man, Miss Johnson. I don't pretend to be." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know," he paused. "And because I'm finding that I dislike the idea of you being the punchline to someone else's joke." Before Maya could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Men in dark suits were shouting in Korean, hands moving to concealed weapons. The crowd shifted nervously. Min Jun's entire demeanor changed. The man who'd been almost apologetic vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal. "Stay here," he commanded, already moving toward the disturbance. But Maya saw what he didn't. A man circling around the chaos, eyes fixed on Min Jun's back, hand reaching into his jacket. She didn't think, just acted. "Behind you." Her voice cut through the noise. Min Jun spun, blade appearing in his hand, as if from nowhere. The attacker froze, suddenly surrounded by Min Jun's guards. The would-be assassin was disarmed and dragged away in seconds. The entire incident so smooth that half the guests barely noticed. Min Jun turned back to Maya, something new in his eyes. Respect, interest, calculation. "You saw him. I've learned to notice things people want to hide," Maya said quietly. "It's how you survive when you're invisible." "You're not invisible." His voice was low, intense. "Not to me, not anymore." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Neither was ready to acknowledge. A woman in a red dress approached, speaking rapidly in Korean. "Business matters, important ones," judging by her urgent tone. Min Jun's jaw tightened. "I have to handle something, but don't leave, please." The last words seemed difficult for him, like he wasn't used to asking for anything. He disappeared into a private room with several associates. Maya stood alone again, suddenly aware of the hostile stares surrounding her. She'd made an impression, but in this world, attention was dangerous. A hand touched her elbow. An older Korean woman with kind eyes and elegant jewelry. "You should come with me, dear. It's not safe for you to stand alone here." "Why are you helping me?" The woman smiled sadly. "Because I remember what it's like to be where you are. Come, let's get you some air." She led Maya through glass doors onto a terrace overlooking the ocean. The Miami night was warm, the sound of waves soothing after the tension inside. "My name is Mrs. Lee," the woman said. "I'm Min Jun's mother." Maya's eyes widened. "Oh, I didn't mean to cause any trouble." "You didn't cause anything. My son did by allowing Choi's cruelty." Lee studied her. "He watches you, no? Even before tonight. I've seen him pause outside his office observing you work. He thought no one noticed." "I'm just a cleaning woman." Lee's voice was firm. "You're a woman with dignity and courage. Those qualities are rare in our world, rarer than any amount of money or power. Your world is dangerous." Lee didn't deny it. "Which is why I'm warning you now. My son is drawn to you. I can see it. But being close to him means being close to death. Men like him don't have normal lives. They don't have safe love. I barely know him. That will change." Lee touched her hand gently. "Just remember, when it does that, caring for a man like Min Jun means accepting that you might lose him at any moment or that he might have to make choices that break your heart." Before Maya could respond, Min Jun emerged onto the terrace. His eyes went immediately to his mother, then to Maya. "Mother, what are you telling her?" "The truth." Lee kissed his cheek. "Be careful, my son." With her heart and your own, she glided back inside, leaving them alone under the stars. Min Jun moved to the railing beside Maya. For a long moment, neither spoke, just stood together, watching the moonlight on the water. "You should hate me," he finally said, "for allowing you to be humiliated." "I should," Maya agreed. "But I'm still trying to figure you out." "What's to figure out?" "I'm a criminal. I run operations that would horrify you. I've done things that keep me awake at night, and yet you told me the truth about why I was invited. You could have let me believe it was real. Would that have been kinder?" Maya turned to face him. "Lies are never kind, even when people pretend they are." Something in Min Jun's expression cracked. Just for a moment, she saw past the cold exterior to the man underneath. Someone tired, lonely, carrying weight no one else could see. "I need to ask you something," he said quietly. "That man you warned me about, how did you see him?" "I told you when you're invisible, you learn to watch everything, notice patterns, see dangers before they arrive. That's a valuable skill. It's a survival skill. I could use someone with those skills." He met her eyes. "Work for me, not as a cleaner, as an observer. You'd see things my own people miss because they expect everyone to fear them. But you see clearly." Maya's heart raced. This was dangerous. Everything about him was dangerous. What would this job entail? Being present at meetings, events, watching, reporting what you notice. He paused. "I would pay you well. Very well." Enough that you wouldn't need 2 jobs anymore. It was tempting. God, it was tempting. Financial security, a chance to use her mind instead of just her hands. But accepting meant entering his world fully. I need to think about it, she said. Fair enough. He pulled out a card, his personal card this time. Not Choi's cruel joke. Call me when you decide. Their fingers brushed as she took the card. The touch was electric, sending heat up her arm. From the way Min Jun's eyes darkened, he felt it, too. I should go, Maya whispered. I'll have my driver take you home. I can get an Uber. Please, that word again, soft and unexpected. Let me do this one decent thing tonight. She nodded, not trusting her voice. As Min Jun's driver pulled up to her apartment building an hour later, Maya sat in the back of the luxury car, his card burning a hole in her purse. She'd come tonight expecting humiliation. Instead, she'd found something far more dangerous. Possibility. Maya called him 3 days later. She'd spent those days wrestling with herself. The smart choice was to refuse, stay in her safe, struggling world, keep her head down. But safe hadn't gotten her anywhere in 28 years, and there was something about Min Jun beyond the danger, beyond the power that made her want to take the risk. Miss Johnson, his voice on the phone was warm. I hoped you would call. I have conditions, she said immediately. I won't do anything illegal. I won't lie or deceive people. And if I see something wrong, I'll say so. Silence, then a low laugh. Most people try to tell me what I want to hear. You do the opposite. Is that a problem? No, it's refreshing. She heard him moving, probably pacing. Your conditions are acceptable. When can you start? I need to give notice at my current jobs. Don't I'll cover any financial loss. You start tomorrow. There's a meeting. Business associates from Los Angeles. I need someone watching who won't be noticed. Won't they wonder who I am? I'll introduce you as my personal assistant. It's not entirely untrue. And just like that, Maya's life changed. The next evening, she stood in Min Jun's private office at the Apex Tower. She'd never been above the 48th floor, but his office occupied the entire 50th. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Miami's glittering skyline. Art that probably cost more than her apartment building hung on the walls. Min Jun was at his desk, focused on documents written in Korean. He looked up when she entered, and his expression shifted, softened. You came. I said I would. In my world, words often mean nothing. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. You're different. Before Maya could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. They're early. Are you ready? As I'll ever be. The meeting room was intimidating. Dark wood, leather chairs, a table that could seat 20. 6 men were already seated, speaking in low voices. They fell silent when Min Jun entered, Maya behind him. Gentlemen, Min Jun said smoothly, switching to English. This is Miss Johnson, my personal assistant. She'll be observing today. The men's eyes traveled over her with varying degrees of interest and dismissal. Maya recognized the look. They saw a pretty face. Nothing more. Let them underestimate her. She took a seat in the corner with a tablet, pretending to take notes while actually watching everything. Body language, micro-expressions, who looked at whom when certain topics arose. The meeting was ostensibly about real estate investments. But underneath the business talk, Maya heard something else. Tension, disagreement, and one man, heavy-set with cold eyes, who kept watching Min Jun with barely concealed contempt. The waterfront property, the man said. His accent was thicker than the others. My organization has an interest in that area. Then your organization can bid like everyone else. Mr. Min Jun's voice was pleasant but firm. That's not how we do business in Los Angeles. We have understandings, territories. This is Miami. Different rules. The temperature in the room dropped. Maya tensed, recognizing the shift. This wasn't negotiation anymore. It was a threat. Kong leaned forward. Perhaps you don't understand how things work in the larger organization. You're young, still proving yourself. It would be wise to show respect to those with more experience. Min Jun smiled. It was terrifying. I show respect to those who earn it, not those who demand it because they're afraid of becoming irrelevant. The other men shifted uncomfortably. This was escalating fast. Careful, boy. Kong growled. You're not as untouchable as you think. Neither are you. The words hung in the air like drawn knives. Maya watched the other men. 3 seemed aligned with Kong. 2 looked nervous, uncertain. Then she noticed something. One of Kang's associates kept glancing at his watch, checking the time. His right hand rested on his lap, fingers twitching. Maya's blood ran cold. She recognized that behavior. Anxiety. Anticipation. Something was about to happen. She caught Min Jun's eye and tilted her head slightly toward the associate. Min Jun's gaze followed, and she saw the moment he understood. "Gentlemen," he said calmly standing. "Let's take a break. 10 minutes. We're not finished," Kong started. "I said, we're taking a break." The command in Min Jun's voice left no room for argument. As soon as the men filed out, Min Jun pulled out his phone, speaking rapidly in Korean. Within minutes, his security team appeared. "What did you see?" he asked Maya urgently. The man in the gray suit, Kang's associate. He kept checking his watch. Nervous movements like he was waiting for something. Min Jun's jaw tightened. He barked orders to his head of security, who nodded and left quickly. "We need to leave," Min Jun said, taking Maya's arm. "Now what's happening?" "If you're right, and I think you are, they're planning something. An ambush, maybe. Or worse." They were halfway to the elevator when the fire alarm screamed to life. Sprinklers erupted from the ceiling and emergency lights bathed everything in red. "False alarm," Min Jun muttered. "Classic distraction. Come on." Instead of the elevator, he led her to a hidden door behind a panel. A private stairwell she'd never known existed. They were descending when they heard footsteps above and below. Heavy boots, many of them. They blocked both exits, Maya realized. Min Jun's expression was grim. He pulled out his phone, but there was no signal in the stairwell. Jammer, they're professionals. They were trapped between floors 30 and 40. Armed men closing in from both directions. For the first time since meeting him, Maya saw something like fear flicker across Min Jun's face. Not for himself, for her. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I brought you into this. You didn't know? I should have. Kong has been making moves against me for months, using you as bait," his hands clenched. "If anything happens to you because of me, then we make sure nothing happens." Maya looked around the stairwell, mind racing. "Is there another way out? Maintenance access? Anything?" Min Jun paused, really looking at her. Where he expected panic, he found determination, strength. "Floor 35, he said. "There's an emergency exit that leads to the parking garage, but we'd have to go through them to reach it." "How many?" "I count maybe 6 above us, for below. So we go up. Better odds. This isn't a movie, Maya. These men are killers. So are you." She met his eyes. "Aren't you?" Something passed between them, understanding acceptance. She wasn't naive about who he was, but she also wasn't running. Min Jun nodded slowly, then reached behind his back and pulled out a small handgun. "Have you ever fired one of these?" "Once my father taught me before he died. Safety's here. Point and squeeze if you have to, but stay behind me." They moved up the stairs silently. The footsteps above grew louder. Min Jun held up a hand, signaling her to stop. He peered around the corner. 3 on the landing, 2 more down the hall. "Can we get past them? We're going to have to try." What happened next was a blur. Min Jun moved with lethal precision, disarming the first man before he could shout. The second reached for his weapon, but Min Jun was faster. The third managed to fire a shot that went wide, shattering a light fixture. Then the others came running. Maya pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering. Min Jun fought like someone who'd been doing this his entire life. Efficient, brutal, necessary, but he was outnumbered. One man got past him, heading straight for Maya. She raised the gun with shaking hands. "Don't move," she said, voice steadier than she felt. The man laughed. "You won't shoot. Try me." Something in her eyes made him hesitate. That moment of doubt was all Min Jun needed. He appeared behind the man, ending the threat. He shouted to Maya, "Emergency exit now." She ran, hearing him behind her. They burst through the door into the parking garage, alarm still wailing. Min Jun's car was nearby, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than most houses. They threw themselves inside. Min Jun peeled out of the garage with tires screaming, weaving through traffic like he was born to it. "Are you hurt?" he asked, eyes still on the road, checking mirrors constantly. "No, you. I'm fine." He took a sharp turn, ensuring they weren't followed. "But we can't go back to the tower. They'll have people watching." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. I have properties they don't know about." 20 minutes later, they pulled into an underground garage beneath a luxury condo building in Coral Gables. Min Jun led her to a penthouse apartment she guessed served as one of many safe houses. Once inside, the adrenaline finally crashed. Maya sank onto a couch, hands trembling. Here, Min-jun appeared with water. She did, grateful. He sat beside her close enough that she could feel the heat of his body. You were right, he said quietly. About the associate. You saved my life. You saved mine, too. I put yours at risk in the first place. His jaw tightened. This is my world, Maya. Violence, danger, betrayal. You saw it tonight. This is what being near me means. I know. You should walk away. I'll make sure you're protected. That Kong can't touch you. But you should leave while you still can. Maya turned to look at him. Really look at him. Beneath the cold exterior, beneath the power and danger, she saw someone profoundly alone. Someone who pushed people away before they could get close enough to hurt him. What if I don't want to walk away? She whispered. Min-jun's eyes darkened. Don't say that. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. Help me understand. I'm not a good man, Maya. I've killed people, ordered deaths, built an empire on blood and fear. His voice was raw. I don't deserve someone like you. Someone genuine and good. That's not your choice to make. Yes, it is. Because caring about you makes you a target. Kong won't stop. Others will see you as my weakness. The moment he stopped himself, jaw clenched. The moment you what? He looked away. The moment I care, you become leverage, a weapon others can use against me. So you do care. Her heart raced. I shouldn't, but you do. Min-jun's hands clenched into fists. The control he always maintained was fracturing. From the moment you walked into that gala, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. We're supposed to be nothing. Background noise. But you're not. You're brave and smart, and you see me, the real me. And you're not afraid. I am afraid, Maya admitted, terrified, but not of you. Of what we might be too afraid to try. The distance between them evaporated. Min-jun's hand rose to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek with surprising gentleness. If we do this, he said hoarsely, there's no going back. You'll be mine, and I'll be yours. And that means we face everything together. The danger, the violence, all of it. Then we face it together. He kissed her, then deep and desperate, like a man who'd been starving and finally found sustenance. Maya melted into him, years of loneliness evaporating in the heat between them. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Min-jun rested his forehead against hers. I won't let anyone hurt you, he promised. Whatever it takes, I know. But as Maya lay in his arms later that night, listening to his steady heartbeat, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Kong wouldn't forgive this insult, and men like him always sought revenge. The next week was a surreal blend of danger and discovery. Min-jun kept Maya close, moving between safe houses, while his people hunted for Kong and his associates. She learned more about his world, the complex network of alliances and rivalries, the codes of honor that governed the Korean Mafia, the weight of leadership he carried. But she also saw the man beneath the boss, the way he made coffee in the morning with meticulous precision, how he spoke to his mother with tenderness despite his cold reputation, the nightmares that woke him at 3 a.m. When he'd slip out of bed and stand at the windows, staring at the city like it might attack at any moment. Tell me about your family, Maya said one evening as they ate Korean food he'd ordered from a restaurant owned by one of his people. Min-jun paused, chopsticks halfway to his mouth. Because I want to know you, all of you. He set down his chopsticks. My father built this organization from nothing. He came from Korea with nothing but ambition and violence. He taught me that weakness was death, that showing emotion made you a target. That sounds lonely. It was as he met her eyes. My father died when I was 20. Heart attack. I had to take over immediately. Prove I was strong enough to lead. There was no time to grieve. No space for it. You were just a kid. I was old enough to know that men were watching, waiting for me to fail, to show any sign that I wasn't as ruthless as my father. His voice was distant, remembering. So I became exactly what they needed me to be, what they feared. But that's not all you are. How do you know? Because you told me the truth about why I was invited to that gala. Because you protected me in that stairwell. Because you're sitting here now letting me see past the armor. Min-jun reached across the table, taking her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You make me want to be different, better. You don't need to be different for me, just honest. Honesty is dangerous in my world. Good thing I'm not afraid of danger. He smiled then. A real smile that transformed his face, making him look younger, less burdened. The moment shattered when his phone buzzed. Min-jun glanced at it. and his entire demeanor changed. The softness vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "What is it?" Maya asked, already knowing it was bad. "Calm. He's made a move." Min Jun was already standing, pulling on his jacket. "He hit one of my operations, killed 2 of my people. I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not, Min Jun. This is different from the tower. This is war, active violence." His voice was hard. "I won't risk you. Think leaving me here alone is safer. What if he knows about this safe house? What if I have guards here? 4 of my best men. They'll protect you. I don't want protection. I want to be with you." Something flickered in his eyes, longing maybe. But he shook his head. "Please, Maya, stay here. If something happened to you, because I was too selfish to keep you safe." He didn't finish the sentence. He kissed her hard, desperately. Then he was gone. The penthouse felt too large and too silent without him. Maya paced, unable to settle. The guards Min Jun had left stationed outside and in the lobby, professional, alert, but not enough, she realized an hour later when the power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in dim red. Maya's heart hammered. She grabbed her phone, but there was no signal, just like in the tower stairwell. Jammer footsteps in the hallway, too many to be Min Jun guards. She ran to the bedroom, locking the door. Then she saw it, a panel in the closet that looked like it might be a safe room. She yanked it open and found a small reinforced space with a phone mounted on the wall, direct line to Min Jun. She grabbed it, praying he would answer. "Safe house, too." His voice was sharp. "Maya, they're here. The power's out. I think they killed the guards." She heard him curse in Korean, then his voice deadly calm. "Listen to me very carefully. There's a code on the wall. That locks the safe room door. It's reinforced steel. They can't get through. How long until you can get here?" 20 minutes, maybe less. "I'm sorry. I should never have left you. Just come back to me." "I will. I promise." "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." Maya punched in the code. The door sealed with a heavy metallic sound. She was trapped, but safe. But now outside she heard voices shouting in Korean. Then gunfire, brief but violent silence. Then someone tried the bedroom door. Found it locked. More shouting. They knew she was here in this room. Something heavy slammed against the door once. The wood began to splinter. Maya pressed herself against the far wall of the safe room, heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The bedroom door crashed open. "Find her," a voice commanded. American accent. Kang's associate from the meeting. Footsteps moved through the bedroom closer to the closet. "There's a panel here. Safe room probably. Can we breach it?" "Not quickly, but we don't need to. She has to come out eventually. Kang wants her alive." Leverage against Ba. Maya closed her eyes, fighting panic. She wouldn't be used against Min Jun. She wouldn't be the reason he compromised everything. "Boss wants us to deliver a message." Another voice said Ba can have her back if he hands over his Miami operations. All of them. He won't agree. Then she dies. Either way, we win. Time crawled. 15 minutes. The men outside grew restless, confident. Then she heard it. New sound, screaming gunfire. So much gunfire it sounded like a war zone. And beneath it all, a voice roaring in Korean. Min Jun's voice. What followed was the sound of absolute violence. No mercy, no hesitation. Then silence. "Maya." Min Jun's voice ragged. "Open the door. It's safe." She punched in the code with shaking fingers. The door unsealed. Min Jun stood in the bedroom doorway, clothes torn, blood on his hands and face, though she couldn't tell if it was his or someone else's. His eyes were wild until they landed on her. Then something in him broke. He crossed the space in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. His whole body was trembling. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered against her hair. "When I got your call, I thought I'm okay. I'm safe because you were smart. Because you locked yourself in." He pulled back, hands framing her face. "This is my fault. All of it. You were right. Leaving you here was stupid. You couldn't have known. I should have known. Kang is escalating. He's willing to break every code we have to get to me." Min Jun's jaw clenched. "This ends now, tonight. What are you going to do?" "What I should have done from the start. End this permanently." "Min Jun, if you kill him, I'm not asking for permission." His voice was cold. "He came after you. That crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. I know, but I need you to promise me something. Don't lose yourself in revenge. Don't become the monster your father taught you to be." She touched his face. "Come back to me. The real you. Something in his expression softened. I don't know if I can separate the two anymore. Then I'll help you remember. He kissed her then, fierce and claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes burned with intensity. I love you. He said just that. No qualifications, no explanations. I love you too. Then trust me. This ends tonight, but I'll come back to you. He left with his entire security force. Maya watched from the window as they disappeared into the Miami night. A small army going to war. She should have been terrified. Should have been running. Instead, she waited because she'd meant what she said. She loved him. All of him, the dangerous parts and the gentle ones, the boss and the man. And she would be here when he returned. Hours later, just before dawn, Min-jun came back, exhausted, battered, but alive. It's done, he said simply. Kang's dead. His organization is scattered. The threat is over. Maya didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. She just opened her arms, and he came to her like a man finding sanctuary after a lifetime of war. I'm tired, he whispered. So tired of the violence, the blood. Then rest. I've got you. They lay together as the sun rose over Miami, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Two people from completely different worlds, finding peace in each other. But even as she held him, Maya knew the truth. The danger would never fully disappear. There would always be another Kong, another threat. Loving Min-jun meant accepting that their happiness would be carved out between moments of darkness. And somehow that was okay because for the first time in years, neither of them was alone. The aftermath of Kang's death rippled through the Korean Mafia's American operations. Territory disputes, power vacuums, ambitious men seeing opportunity. Min-jun handled it all with ruthless efficiency. But something had changed in him. Maya saw it in the way he held her at night, like she might disappear. In how he started delegating more, spending less time in the field and more time planning, strategizing. He was still dangerous, still powerful, but he was also learning to be something else. Come with me, he said one evening, 3 weeks after the final confrontation with Kong. There's something I want to show you. He drove them to a neighborhood in Coral Gables, pulling up in front of a beautiful Mediterranean-style house, cream walls, terracotta roof, a garden that promised privacy and peace. What is this? Maya asked. If you want it, he turned to face her. I bought it last week. No one in my organization knows about it. No ties to the business, just a home. Her breath caught. Min-jun, I know what I'm asking. For you to fully commit to this life to me. His hand found hers. I can't promise safety. Can't promise normal. But I can promise that every day I will choose you. Choose us. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. Maya Johnson, will you marry me? The ring was beautiful, simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the sunlight. But it was the look in his eyes that made her heart soar, vulnerable, hopeful, completely open. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like a promise. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. My mother will be thrilled, Min-jun said. She's already planning the wedding. Your mother knows. I told her last week. She said, and I quote, about time you found someone who makes you act like a human instead of a machine. He laughed. She likes you a lot. I like her too. They toured the house together. Min-jun pointing out features he thought she'd enjoy. A kitchen with modern appliances, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a master bedroom with windows overlooking the garden. I want this to be your space, he said. Our space, separate from the business, a place where we can just be us. No guards, no security. Oh, there will definitely be security. I'm not that reformed, but discreet, invisible. This house is about giving you some normally, some peace. Maya wrapped her arms around him. I don't need normal. I just need you. Have me. All of me. He hesitated. There's something else I need to tell you. I'm restructuring the organization. Stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'll still be in charge, but I'm delegating more. Training successors. Because I want a life with you. Not just stolen moments between crises. His voice was firm. I've spent my entire existence building power, maintaining control. But what's the point if I have no one to share it with? No future beyond the next threat. Your people might see that as weakness. Let them. Anyone who challenges me will learn quickly that stepping back doesn't mean going soft. His eyes hardened briefly. But I'm also smart enough to know that this life, constant violence, constant danger, has an expiration date. I want to reach mine with you beside me, not die alone in some pointless territorial dispute. Maya saw the truth in his words. He'd thought about this. Really thought about it. What about your father's legacy? My father died alone, surrounded by people who feared him, but no one who loved him. Min Jun's voice was quiet. That's not the legacy I want. To build something different with you. 2 months later, they married in a private ceremony. Lee cried through the entire event. Min Jun's most trusted associates attended, sworn to secrecy. Maya's best friend, Tiana, was there, stunned into silence by the whole situation. Girl, Tiana whispered during the reception. You really went from cleaning buildings to marrying a mafia boss. This is like a movie. It feels like a movie sometimes, Maya admitted. You happy though? Really happy. Maya looked across the room to where Min Jun stood with his mother, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. He caught her eye and smiled, that private smile reserved only for her. Yeah, she said. I really am. The honeymoon was a week in a private villa in the Florida Keys. No business, no guards hovering, just them, the ocean, and time to simply exist together. I could get used to this, Min Jun said one evening as they watched the sunset from the beach. Retirement doesn't suit you. Semi-retirement, he corrected. I'm still running things, just with better priorities. Like what? Like making sure my wife is happy. Making sure we have a future that's about more than just surviving. He pulled her closer. I want kids someday. Want to give them what I never had. A father who's actually present. Who shows them that strength doesn't mean emotional absence. Maya's heart swelled. You'd be a good father. I hope so, because I'm terrified of screwing it up. Then we'll figure it out together. Like everything else. They returned to Miami in their new life. Maya started taking business classes, learning the legitimate side of Min Jun's empire. She had a mind for strategy, and Min Jun valued her input on everything from real estate investments to personnel decisions. You're better at reading people than half my advisors, he told her one day after a meeting. You see things they miss. That's because I spent years being invisible, watching, learning. You're not invisible anymore. No, she agreed. But I remember what it was like. That gives me perspective they'll never have. 6 months into their marriage, trouble arose again, not from external enemies, but internal politics. Some of Min Jun's older associates bristled at his reduced presence, whispered that marriage had made him soft, weak. The whispers reached Min Jun through his network of informants. He called a meeting of all his lieutenants and captains. Maya attended, standing beside him at the head of the table. I've heard the concerns, Min Jun said, his voice carrying absolute authority. Some of you think I've changed, become less effective, less dangerous. The men shifted uncomfortably. No one wanted to openly challenge him. You're right. I have changed. He looked at each of them in turn. I've learned that power without purpose is empty. That ruling through fear alone creates enemies where you could have allies. With respect, sir, one of the older men said carefully. Your father. My father died at 53. Alone, betrayed by someone close to him. Min Jun's voice was cold. Is that the legacy you want? Because I'm building something different. An organization that doesn't require constant bloodshed to maintain. One that can actually grow instead of just defending territory. He gestured to financial reports on the table. Since restructuring, our legitimate business profits are up 40%. We've expanded into 3 new markets, and we've done it without the constant warfare that bled money and people. The numbers spoke for themselves. Even the doubters couldn't argue with results. This woman, Min Jun continued, his hand finding Maya, is my wife, my partner. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. Anyone who sees her as a weakness will discover their mistake permanently. The threat was clear. The men bowed their heads in acknowledgement. After the meeting, alone in their office, Maya touched his arm. Thank you for standing up for me. Always. He pulled her close. You're not a weakness. You're my strength. The reason I'm building something better. Some of them still don't understand. They will, or they'll leave. Either way, I'm not apologizing for choosing happiness over endless violence. As the year progressed, the organization stabilized under Min Jun's new leadership style. Some of the old guard left, unwilling to adapt, but younger members rose to fill those gaps, bringing fresh ideas and less attachment to the brutal methods of the past. Min Jun still made hard decisions, still handled threats when necessary, but he did it strategically with minimal collateral damage. And every night he came home to Maya, to their house, to the life they were building together. One evening, as they sat in their garden watching fireflies dance in the twilight, Maya said, "Do you ever regret it choosing this path?" "Which path? The organization or you?" "Both, I guess." Minjun was quiet for a moment. "I don't regret the organization. It's part of who I am, my father's legacy, but also my own." He turned to face her. "But meeting you, choosing you, that's the only decision I've ever made that I know without question was absolutely right. Even with all the complications, especially with them, because you didn't just accept me as I was. You challenged me to be better, to want more than just power and fear. You did that yourself. No, you showed me it was possible. There's a difference." Maya leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Too, more than I thought I could love anything." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Two people who shouldn't have worked, but did, who found in each other exactly what they'd been missing without knowing it. Months turned into a year, then two. Their life together deepened, became richer. Minjun continued transforming the organization, building alliances instead of just controlling territory. Maya became known in the community for her charity work, using resources to help people like her former self. People struggling, invisible, needing just one opportunity. They traveled, built memories, fought occasionally, fierce arguments that ended in fiercer reconciliations, learned each other's rhythms and needs, and through it all their love grew. Not the explosive passion of those early days, but something deeper, more enduring. One night, 3 years after they met, Maya stood on the terrace of their home looking out at the Miami skyline. Minjun appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How different my life is now. 3 years ago, I was cleaning buildings, struggling to pay rent. Now I'm here with you. Regrets?" "Not one." She turned in his arms. "But I do wonder sometimes. What if Choi had never invited me to that gala? What if you'd never really seen me? I think I would have eventually. You're impossible not to see. But I'm glad it happened when it did. Glad I didn't waste more time being alone when I could have been with you." "Me too. There's something I want to tell you," Minjun said, his tone shifting. "I've been thinking about completely legitimizing the organization. Taking the next 5 years to transition everything to legal operations." Maya's eyes widened. "Really? I've made enough money, built enough power, and I want—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want our children to have a father they can be proud of. A legacy that's about more than just survival. Our children." Her heart raced. "If you want them with me, I do. I really do." He kissed her then, soft and sweet. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. 5 years, he said. "That's my timeline to build something clean, something that won't require them to choose between loving me and respecting me. They'll love and respect you regardless because I do. You see the best in me. I see all of you, the best and the rest, and I love all of it." Later that night, as they lay in bed, Maya thought about how far they'd both come. From that moment in the ballroom when everyone was speechless to this, a life built on trust, respect, and love that refused to be defined by circumstances. Minjun had been right that first night. Once he cared, there was no going back. The danger hadn't disappeared. Probably never would completely, but they faced it together, and that made all the difference. "Maya," his voice was sleepy. "Yeah, thank you for what? For walking into that gala. For not running when you learned who I was. For choosing me despite everything." He pulled her closer. "For being exactly who you are. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me always. I'll always see you." And as Maya drifted off to sleep in his arms, she knew it was true. They'd both been invisible in their own ways, her to society, and behind his armor of power and control, but they saw each other clearly now. And that clarity, that connection was worth every risk they'd taken to find it. Years passed, seasons changed, and Miami's skyline evolved. The Bay organization transformed from a shadow empire into a network of legitimate businesses, real estate, technology investments, import-export companies that actually did what they claimed. Minjun kept his promise. 5 years of careful transition, strategic exits from illegal operations, and building relationships with people who didn't fear him, but respected him. Maya stood on the balcony of their home, watching their daughter play in the garden. 4 years old, with her father's sharp eyes and her mother's radiant smile. They'd named her Hannah, wisdom and goodness, a name that represented everything they hoped she would embody. Mommy, look. Hannah held up a butterfly that had landed on her finger. It likes me. It does, baby. You're very gentle. Min Jun emerged from the house, loosening his tie. He'd spent the day at a board meeting for one of their technology startups. Completely legal. Completely boring, he joked that morning. But Maya saw the satisfaction in his eyes. The peace. How was your day? She asked as he joined her. Profitable, tedious, but good. He watched their daughter. She's getting big. She takes after you, stubborn and brilliant. Takes after you, kind and brave. He pulled Maya close. We did good. We did. Hannah ran over, demanding her father's attention with the imperious tone of a beloved child. Min Jun scooped her up and Maya's heart swelled watching them together. He was the father he'd promised to be. Present, affectionate, teaching their daughter strength without cruelty. I have news, Maya said later after they'd put Hannah to bed. The community center opened today. The one we funded in Little Haiti. How was it? Beautiful. Full kids everywhere. Parents crying because they finally have a safe place for their children. She smiled. Your money did that. Our money. You're the one who made it happen. Still feels surreal sometimes that we can help people like that. That's why we did this. Min Jun pulled her onto his lap. Building something that helps instead of hurts. Your father would be proud. Maybe, or he'd think I'd gone soft. Min Jun shrugged. Either way, I chose this path, and I don't regret it. Do you miss it? The old life. He considered the question seriously. Sometimes I miss the simplicity, the clear lines between friend and enemy, but I don't miss the violence, the constant looking over my shoulder, the loneliness. He cooped her face. This is better. You are better. We're better. She corrected. Yes, we are. Lee visited the next day, bringing food and gifts for Hannah. She'd aged gracefully, her hair now fully silver, but her eyes still sharp. My son looks happy, she said to Maya, while Min Jun played with Hannah in the next room. Truly happy. I never thought I'd see that. He works hard at it. You both do. That's why it works. Lee smiled. You know, when you first walked into that gala, I saw it immediately. Saw what? That you would change everything. That my son's carefully controlled world was about to be turned upside down. She touched Maya's hand. I'm grateful it was you. Someone with the strength to love him without losing yourself. He makes it easy. No, dear. You make it look easy. That evening, after Mrs. Lee left and Hannah was asleep, Maya and Min Jun sat in their garden, the same spot where they'd had so many important conversations over the years. I've been thinking, Min Jun said, about writing everything down, my experiences, the transition from crime to legitimacy, not for publication, but for Hannah, so she understands where we came from. That's a good idea. I want her to know the truth. That I wasn't always a good man. That I made choices I'm not proud of. But also that people can change. That love can transform even the most damaged parts of us. You weren't damaged. You were surviving. Same thing sometimes. He was quiet for a moment. Do you ever think about that night at the gala all the time? Everyone was speechless when you walked in, but I was speechless for a different reason. He turned to face her. I saw you. Really saw you. And I knew my life would never be the same. That you would either destroy me or save me. And which did I do? You destroyed the person I was pretending to be. And you saved the person I actually am. Maya leaned against him, breathing in his familiar scent. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. They sat together as the stars emerged, the Miami night warm and welcoming. Somewhere in the house, their daughter slept peacefully, safe and loved. Around them a life they'd built together. Messy, complicated, but undeniably theirs. Maya thought back to that woman who'd walked into an elegant ballroom 3 years ago, terrified and uncertain, but refusing to show it. That woman who'd been invisible for so long, she'd almost forgotten she deserved to be seen. And she thought about the man who'd looked past his own armor long enough to actually see her. Who'd chosen to be vulnerable when vulnerability was dangerous. Who transformed his entire world for the chance at something real. I love you, she whispered. I love you, too, Min Jun replied. Thank you for what? For walking into that ballroom. For being brave when it would have been easier to run. For choosing us every single day. It's not a hard choice. It should have been. I gave you every reason to leave, and I gave you every reason to let me go. But here we are. He echoed. And as they sat beneath the stars, two people from completely different worlds who'd found their way to each other against all odds. They both understood the truth. Sometimes the most important moment of your life comes when you least expect it. When you walk into a room full of people who don't see you and find the one person who does. When you're speechless, not because someone is beautiful, but because they're real, genuine, exactly what you've been searching for without knowing it. And when you choose to be brave enough to reach for that connection, despite the danger, despite the differences, despite every logical reason to walk away, that's when life truly begins. Maya and Minjun. It had all started with a cruel joke and a room full of speechless strangers, and it had transformed into a love story neither of them could have imagined, but both of them deserved. 5 years had passed since that night, when Minjun first promised to legitimize his empire. The transformation was nearly complete, but with success came new dangers. Maya stood in the kitchen of their Coral Gables home, morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows as she watched 80-year-old Hannah practice violin in the garden. The girl had inherited her father's intensity and her mother's grace, attacking each piece with determination that reminded Maya so much of Minjun it made her chest tight. Hannah lowered her violin and looked toward the house. "Mama, why does Daddy have so many meetings with serious people in suits?" Maya's hands stilled on the coffee mug she'd been washing. They'd known this day would come. Hannah was too intelligent, too observant to accept simple answers much longer. "He runs businesses, sweetheart. Important decisions require serious conversations. But why do some of the men look scared when they talk to him? And why does Mrs. Chun keep asking you questions about Daddy at school pickup?" Maya's blood chilled. Detective Sarah Chun had been circling their family for months, building what Maya suspected was a federal case against Minjun. The woman was brilliant, patient, and absolutely ruthless in her pursuit of what she called justice. She'd been questioning other parents, teachers, anyone who had contact with their family. "Mrs. Chun is just curious about new families in the neighborhood," Maya said carefully. "You know how grown-ups like to know their neighbors." Hannah wasn't convinced, but she returned to her violin. Maya watched her daughter practice, each note perfect and controlled, while her mind raced. They'd built something beautiful here, but the past had a way of demanding payment even when you thought you'd settled all accounts. Minjun emerged from his home office, tie loose around his neck, exhaustion evident in the set of his shoulders. The legitimate businesses were thriving, but the transition had created new pressures. Former rivals who resented his success, law enforcement agencies that refused to believe his transformation was genuine, and internal struggles with associates who chafed under the new restrictions. "How was the call with Sol?" Maya asked, reading the tension in his posture. "Complicated. The Sol branch wants to expand into cryptocurrency, but the regulatory requirements are overwhelming. We're walking a tightrope between growth and compliance." He moved to the window, watching Hannah with the same protective intensity Maya had come to recognize. "Our daughter asked about your meetings today." Minjun's jaw tightened. "What did you tell her?" "The truth, as much as we can. But she's getting older," Minjun smarter. "She notices things." "I know." He turned from the window, decision crystallizing in his expression. "It's time we told her everything. Age appropriately, but she deserves to know who her father really was." Before Maya could respond, Minjun's phone buzzed with an emergency alert. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor shifted, the businessman vanishing and something harder taking its place. "We need to go. Now." "What's wrong?" "Detective Chun just executed search warrants on 3 of our properties." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd been expecting this, dreading it, but the reality still hit like a physical blow. The careful life they'd built was about to be dissected by people who saw only the criminal Minjun had been, not the man he'd become. "Hannah." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Already handled." Minjun was moving toward the door. "Security is taking her to my mother's house. Chen's people won't find anything actionable, but they'll try to use this to pressure us." Maya grabbed her purse, mind shifting into crisis mode. Over the years, she'd learned to compartmentalize fear, to function even when everything felt like it was collapsing. "What do they want?" "Me. They want me to make a mistake, get emotional, give them something they can use in court." Minjun's voice was controlled, but Maya heard the current of fury beneath. "Chen's been building this case for years. She knows about Kong, about the old operations, but she can't prove I was directly involved in anything violent. They drove through Miami in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Maya stared out the window at the city they'd made their home, wondering if they'd have to leave it all behind. She'd given up everything once before for love. She could do it again. The federal building was a monument to bureaucratic authority, all glass and concrete designed to intimidate. Maya had never been inside, but as they walked through security and metal detectors, she felt the weight of the system bearing down on them. This wasn't Min Jun's world anymore. Here, his reputation, his connections, his careful transformation meant nothing. Detective Chun was waiting in conference room B, a woman in her 40s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd built her career pursuing organized crime figures, and Maya could see why she was successful. There was something relentless about her, patient and methodical. Mr. Lee, Mrs. Lee, thank you for coming in voluntarily. We appreciate your cooperation. Maya noticed Chin used Min Jun's legal name, the one on all their legitimate documents. It was a small thing, but it suggested the detective was playing by different rules now. We're happy to help with whatever questions you have, Detective, Maya said before Min Jun could respond. We have nothing to hide. Chin smiled. It wasn't warm. I'm sure you don't. She opened a thick file folder, revealing photographs, documents, surveillance reports spanning years. You've built quite an impressive business empire, Mr. Lee. Technology investments, real estate development, import-export operations. Very successful transition from your previous line of work. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Min Jun remained perfectly still, but Maya could feel his tension. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, Detective. Building legitimate businesses that provide jobs and contribute to the community. Yes, about that community contribution. Chin pulled out a photograph of the community center in Little Haiti, the one Maya had helped establish. Quite generous of you to fund youth programs in underserved neighborhoods. Almost like you're trying to balance some scales. Maya's temper flared, but she kept her voice level. We believe in giving back. My husband grew up with very little. We want to help other families have better opportunities. Admirable. Chin's tone suggested otherwise. Tell me, Mrs. Lee, what do you know about a man named Kong Deo? Maya felt the blood drain from her face, but she forced herself to meet Chin's gaze. The name's not familiar. Really? Chin slid another photograph across the table. This is surveillance footage from the Oceanic Grand Hotel, 5 years ago. That's you in the burgundy dress, and that's Kong in the background. 3 days later, Kong and 6 of his associates were found dead in a warehouse in downtown Miami. Min Jun's hand found Maya's under the table, a silent message of support and warning. They'd prepared for this moment, rehearsed their responses, but facing the reality was different. I attended a business event at the hotel, Maya said carefully. I don't know everyone who was there, and I certainly don't know anything about what happened afterward. Chin studied her for a long moment. You're very calm for someone whose husband is being investigated for multiple murders. Because my husband isn't a murderer, Detective. Maya met her gaze steadily. Whatever happened in the past, Min Jun has spent the last 5 years building a legitimate life. We have a daughter, businesses that employ dozens of people, charitable foundations that help communities. That's who we are now. People don't change that much, Mrs. Lee. Especially people like your husband. Min Jun spoke for the first time since they'd sat down. With respect, Detective, you don't know me. You know files, reports, surveillance footage. You know the man I was, not the man I became. And what changed you, Mr. Lee? Min Jun looked at Maya, something profound and tender passing between them. Love. Real love. The kind that makes you want to be better than you ever thought you could be. Chin made a note in her file. How romantic. Unfortunately, love doesn't erase criminal history. We have evidence linking you to organized crime activities, racketeering, money laundering, and yes, murder. The only question is whether Mrs. Lee here was an innocent victim or an active participant. Maya felt ice form in her veins. Chin was threatening to charge her, to destroy not just Min Jun but their entire family. My wife has never been involved in anything illegal, Detective. Min Jun's voice was deadly quiet. She was a cleaning woman when we met. Everything she knows about my business activities came after we were married, and only the legitimate aspects. She was present at meetings where criminal conspiracies were discussed. She observed criminal associates. She had knowledge of violent acts and didn't report them to authorities. That makes her an accessory at minimum. Maya realized what Chen was doing. She was trying to drive a wedge between them, create pressure that would force Min-jun to make a deal. The detective had studied their relationship, identified their deepest vulnerability. "What do you want, detective?" Maya asked directly. "Your husband's cooperation. Full disclosure of his criminal activities from the past decade. Names, dates, financial records, everything. In exchange, we'll consider immunity for you and ensure your daughter's safety during the transition." Transition to what? Witness protection. New identities, relocation, federal marshals ensuring your safety while your husband testifies against his former associates. Maya felt the world tilt around her. Everything they'd built, their entire life, reduced to leverage in a federal case. "I need to speak with my attorney," Min-jun said. "Of course." Chen closed her file. "But don't take too long, Mr. Lee. Organized crime figures have a way of disappearing when they feel threatened. I'd hate for anything to happen to your family while you're considering your options." The threat was clear, sophisticated, and terrifying. Chen wasn't just pursuing justice. She was willing to destroy innocent people to get what she wanted. They left the federal building in silence, both understanding that their old life had effectively ended. The question now was what would replace it. That night, after Hannah was safely asleep at Mrs. Lee's house, Maya and Min-jun sat in their garden for what might be the last time. The space that had witnessed so many important conversations now felt like a museum of their happiness. "We could run," Min-jun said quietly. "I have resources Chen doesn't know about. We could disappear, start over somewhere else. With an 80-year-old daughter." Maya shook her head. "Hannah deserves stability, friends, a normal life. We can't spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders." "Then what do you want to do?" "Fight." Maya turned to face him. "We built something real here, Min-jun, something good. I won't let Chen destroy it because she's decided you can't change. Fighting means risking everything. If we lose, I go to prison for life. You could be charged as an accessory. Hannah grows up with both parents behind bars. And if we run, we teach our daughter that the past always wins. That people like us don't deserve happiness. That love isn't strong enough to overcome anything." Min-jun pulled her closer, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. "You're braver than I am." "No, I'm just more stubborn." Maya smiled against his chest. "Besides, someone once told me that when you care about someone, there's no going back. We face everything together, remember?" 3 weeks later, Maya stood in another conference room, this one filled with federal prosecutors, FBI agents, and enough legal firepower to take down a small country. Min-jun sat beside her, impeccably dressed and absolutely calm, while their attorney, David Kim, reviewed documents with microscopic attention to detail. Chen was there, along with her federal counterparts, all of them radiating confidence. They'd spent months building this case, and they clearly believed they had Min-jun trapped. "Mr. Lee," Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh began, "we've reviewed your attorney's preliminary proposal. While we appreciate your willingness to cooperate, we need complete disclosure of your criminal activities and associates. I've provided everything I legally can, counselor." Min-jun's voice was steady. "My business records, financial statements, communication logs, all completely transparent. What you're asking for goes beyond cooperation into entrapment of people who may or may not have committed crimes. These people are your former criminal associates. They're not innocent. Some of them are. Some have made the same transition I have. I won't destroy legitimate businesses and innocent families to satisfy your desire for high-profile arrests." Maya watched the federal team exchange glances. They'd expected Min-jun to capitulate, to choose his family's safety over loyalty to former associates. They hadn't anticipated that his transformation included a genuine moral code. "Mr. Lee," Chun interjected, "you seem to be under the impression that you have bargaining power here. We have enough evidence to indict you on multiple felony charges. Your cooperation determines whether your wife faces similar charges." Min-jun's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on Maya's, the only sign of his emotional response. "Then charge us both, detective. My wife and I will face whatever consequences come from our choices." Maya felt pride surge through her chest. This was the man she'd fallen in love with, not because he was dangerous or powerful, but because he had the courage to do what he believed was right even when it cost him everything. "We'd like to request a continuance," David Kim said smoothly. My clients need time to consider the government's offer. Walsh nodded curtly. 48 hours, counselor. After that, we proceed with indictments. As they left the federal building, Maya realized their fate was no longer in their hands. The system had its own momentum, its own requirements for justice. All they could do was decide how they wanted to face whatever came next. That evening, as they tucked Hannah into bed at Mrs. Lee's house, their daughter looked up at them with Min Jun's intense dark eyes. Are you and Daddy going away, Mama? Maya's heart broke a little. Hannah had inherited more than intelligence from her parents. She'd also inherited the ability to sense danger, to read the emotional currents around her. We might have to travel for a while, sweetheart. But no matter what happens, we love you more than anything in the world. Will you come back? Maya looked at Min Jun, seeing her own desperate hope reflected in his expression. We'll do everything we can to come back to you. And if we can't, you'll always have Grandma Lee and all the people who love you. Hannah nodded solemnly, accepting the adult reality that children shouldn't have to understand. Promise you'll be brave. We promise, Min Jun said, his voice thick with emotion. And we promise to always tell you the truth about who we are and what we've done. After Hannah fell asleep, Maya and Min Jun drove back to their empty house. The federal surveillance teams were obvious now, black SUVs parked across the street, agents no longer bothering to hide their presence. Do you regret it? Maya asked as they sat in their living room surrounded by the life they'd built together. Choosing me, I mean. If you'd stayed alone, Chen would have nothing to leverage against you. Min Jun was quiet for a long moment. I was already dead before I met you, Maya. Living, but dead inside. Everything I've experienced in the past 5 years, every moment of happiness, every morning I woke up excited about the day ahead. All of it happened because you walked into that ballroom. Even if it ends with both of us in prison. Even then. Because I'd rather have 5 years of real life with you than 50 years of existence without you. The next morning brought news that changed everything. David Kim called before dawn, his voice tight, with controlled excitement. Chen's been removed from the case. Internal Affairs found evidence that she'd been conducting unauthorized surveillance on your family. The federal case is being reviewed by a new team. What does that mean for us? It means we have leverage now. Chen's overzealousness has created legal complications for the prosecution. They may be willing to negotiate a more reasonable plea agreement. Maya felt hope flicker in her chest, dangerous and bright. What kind of agreement? Community service, financial penalties, ongoing federal oversight of your businesses, but no prison time if Min Jun provides limited cooperation on ongoing investigations. Limited how? Information about criminal activities, but only involving people already under federal indictment. No fishing expeditions, no betraying people who've genuinely reformed. It was more than they'd dared hope for. But Maya had learned not to trust good news too quickly. What's the catch? You'd be under federal supervision for 5 years. Regular check-ins, financial monitoring, restrictions on travel and business activities. And any violation, even minor ones, could result in full prosecution. Min Jun was already nodding. We'll take it. 2 months later, Maya stood in a federal courtroom listening to Min Jun formally accept a plea agreement that would allow them to keep their family together. The judge was thorough, making sure Min Jun understood the implications of his decision, the years of restrictions and oversight that lay ahead. Do you understand, Mr. Lee, that this agreement requires complete honesty about your past criminal activities and ongoing cooperation with federal law enforcement? I do, Your Honor. And do you understand that any violation of the terms of this agreement will result in prosecution for the full range of charges originally filed against you? I understand completely, Your Honor. Min Jun's voice was clear and strong. I accept full responsibility for my past actions and their consequences. The judge signed the order, and Maya felt 5 years of tension leave her body all at once. They were free. Restricted, monitored, but free. Outside the courthouse, Min Jun pulled Maya and Hannah into his arms, the 3 of them forming a tight circle against the world. Is it over, Daddy? Hannah asked. The legal part is over, sweetheart. Now we get to go home and keep building our life together. As they drove back to Coral Gables, Maya reflected on everything they'd survived. The federal case had tested their relationship in ways she'd never imagined, forced them to confront not just Min Jun's past, but their own capacity for loyalty and sacrifice. What are you thinking about? Min-jun asked, reading her expression in the rearview mirror. How far we've traveled. 5 years ago, I was invisible to everyone except you. Now I've testified before a federal grand jury, faced down federal prosecutors, and helped you navigate the most dangerous period of our lives. You were always this strong, Maya. I just gave you a reason to show it. Hannah looked up from her book in the back seat. Mama, what does it mean that Daddy had a different life before? It means, Maya said carefully, that people can change. Your father made mistakes when he was younger, before he learned better ways to solve problems. But he worked very hard to become a different person. Like when I used to hit other kids when I was little, but now I use my words instead. Exactly like that, sweetheart. Sometimes growing up means learning that the things we thought made us strong actually made us weak. Min-jun caught Maya's eyes in the mirror, and she saw gratitude there deeper than words. They'd found a way to give their daughter the truth without destroying her sense of security. 6 months after the plea agreement, Maya was working in the community center's after-school program when she noticed a familiar figure observing from the doorway. Detective Chen looked older, tired, her steel-gray hair now showing streaks of white. Mrs. Lee, could I speak with you for a moment? Maya's protective instincts flared, but she gestured toward the hallway. They walked in silence until they were out of earshot of the children. I wanted to apologize, Chen said without preamble. My investigation methods were inappropriate. I let my personal feelings about organized crime override my professional judgment. Maya studied the woman who'd nearly destroyed her family. What personal feelings? My father was killed by men like your husband. Korean gang members who thought violence solved their problems. I spent 20 years hunting people like Min-jun, and I stopped seeing them as individuals capable of change. I'm sorry for your loss, detective, but Min-jun isn't responsible for what happened to your father. I know that now. Chen looked through the window at the children Min-jun's money was helping. Watching what you've built here, seeing how the community has responded to your family's contributions, I had to confront some uncomfortable truths about justice and redemption. Maya felt something she'd never expected toward this woman. Understanding. Your investigation almost destroyed my family, detective, but it also forced us to prove to ourselves that our transformation was real. In a strange way, you made us stronger. Chen smiled sadly. I'm glad something positive came from my mistakes. Your husband is lucky to have you. We're both lucky to have each other. As Chen walked away, Maya realized that forgiveness wasn't about absolving people of their mistakes. It was about recognizing that everyone, including their enemies, was capable of growth and change. That evening, she told Min-jun about the conversation over dinner while Hannah practiced piano in the background. Chen apologized to you. Min-jun sounded amazed. She did. I think she finally understood what we've been trying to show everyone. That people aren't defined by their worst moments. Maybe there's hope for the world after all, Min-jun said with a smile. Years continued to pass, marked by Hannah's growing independence and their family's deepening integration into the community. Min-jun's businesses thrived under federal oversight, proving that legitimate success was not only possible, but more satisfying than anything he'd achieved through criminal means. Maya expanded her work with the community center, eventually earning a master's degree in social work and becoming the organization's director. She found purpose in helping other families navigate crises, drawing on her own experiences to offer genuine hope and practical solutions. Hannah grew into a thoughtful, accomplished teenager who understood her family's unique history without being defined by it. She volunteered at the community center, played violin in the youth orchestra, and displayed the kind of quiet leadership that reminded Maya of her father at his best. One evening, as Maya and Min-jun sat in their garden watching Hannah teach violin to younger children, Min-jun turned to her with an expression of profound contentment. Do you remember what you said that first night we talked about having children? That you'd be a good father. I was terrified I'd pass on the worst parts of myself to her. The violence, the anger, the inability to solve problems without power. Maya watched their daughter patiently correct a young student's fingering, encouraging him with the same gentle strength she showed in everything she did. Look at her, Min-jun. She has your determination and intelligence, but none of your darkness. She's proof that we can break the cycle, that love really is stronger than everything else. I love you, Maya Johnson Lee. Every day, I love you more than I thought was possible. And I love you, Min-jun. All of you. The man you were, the man you became, and the man you're still becoming. They sat together as the sun set behind the Miami skyline. Two people who'd found their way to each other against impossible odds and built something beautiful from the ashes of a broken past. 10 years later, Maya stood in the same ballroom of the Oceanic Grand Hotel, but this time she was there as an honored guest. The Miami Community Foundation was recognizing her work with at-risk families, and the irony of the location wasn't lost on anyone who knew their story. Hannah, now 19 and a freshman at MIT, stood beside her parents wearing a simple black dress that emphasized her natural grace. She'd grown into a stunning young woman, but more importantly, she'd grown into someone who used her privilege to help others. As Maya accepted the award for community service, she looked out at the audience and saw faces that represented the life they'd built. Former criminals who'd followed Min Jun's example and gone legitimate. Children from the community center who were now college graduates. Social workers and teachers and community leaders who'd become family in every sense that mattered. In the back of the room, she spotted a figure that made her breath catch. Detective Chun, now retired, had come to witness this moment. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom, and Chun smiled genuinely for the first time since Maya had known her. Later, at the reception, Chun approached with evident nervousness. "Mrs. Lee, I hope you don't mind me being here. I saw the announcement in the paper and wanted to witness justice done properly this time." "I'm glad you came, Detective." Maya meant it. "Your investigation forced us to examine everything we believed about redemption and change. In its way, it made our transformation more complete. I've been following your work with the foundation. You've helped more than 200 families navigate crisis situations in the past 5 years. That's a remarkable legacy." Maya looked across the room to where Min Jun was deep in conversation with a group of young entrepreneurs he mentored. "It's not my legacy. It's ours. Everything we've accomplished together." Hannah approached carrying 2 glasses of champagne, moving with her father's purposeful grace and her mother's warmth. "Grandma Lee wants to know if you're ready for the toast, Mama." "Almost, sweetheart." "Hannah, I'd like you to meet Detective Chun. She was involved in our family's life during some difficult times." Hannah extended her hand with perfect composure. "I've heard about you, Detective. Thank you for helping my parents understand how strong their relationship really was." Chun looked startled by the young woman's directness and wisdom. "That's a generous way to interpret what I put your family through. My parents taught me that every experience, even painful ones, can teach us something valuable if we're willing to learn. Your investigation taught them that their love was strong enough to survive anything." Maya felt tears threaten as she watched Chun process her daughter's words. This was what she and Min Jun had built together. A young woman who could find grace and wisdom in even the most difficult circumstances. As the evening wound down, Maya found herself once again on the terrace overlooking the ocean, but this time she wasn't alone and afraid. Min Jun stood beside her, Hannah on her other side, and Mrs. Lee nearby with a group of friends who'd become extended family. "Do you ever think about that night?" Min Jun asked quietly. "When you walked through those doors for the first time?" "Every day?" Maya leaned against him, still amazed by how perfectly they fit together. "I was so terrified, but trying not to show it. I saw you immediately. Before you even entered the ballroom, I knew something was about to change everything." Hannah looked between her parents with affectionate exasperation. "You two are so dramatic. It's just a love story. Just a love story." Maya laughed, as if love stories aren't the most powerful force in the world. As they drove home that night, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a cruel joke to a federal investigation to community recognition, they'd survived everything because they'd chosen to face it together. Their house in Coral Gables looked the same as it had 15 years ago, but everything was different. The federal monitors were gone. The surveillance teams were history. Even the security systems had been scaled back to normal levels. This was simply home now. The place where they'd raised their daughter, built their businesses, and learned that redemption wasn't a destination but a daily choice. As they prepared for bed, Min Jun turned to Maya with the same intensity that had captured her attention all those years ago. "What are you thinking about now?" "The future." Maya smiled. "Hannah's graduation from MIT. Your speech at the Small Business Conference next month. The new community center we're planning in Little Haiti. All the normal, wonderful things that make up a life. No regrets." about marrying a reformed criminal who turned out to be the love of my life. Maya pulled him close. Not one. They lay together in the darkness, listening to the familiar sounds of their neighborhood. Somewhere in the house, Hannah was probably reading or working on an engineering problem that would help make the world better. In the morning, they would wake up and continue building the life they'd chosen together. Maya thought about that young woman who'd walked into the Oceanic Grand Hotel with nothing but courage and desperation. She'd been looking for opportunity, for a chance at something better. What she'd found instead was everything she'd never known she wanted. Love had transformed them both, but not in the dramatic, instantaneous way romance novels promised. It had been slow, daily work. Choosing each other over fear. Choosing growth over comfort. Choosing hope over cynicism. And it had been worth every difficult moment, every federal investigation, every sacrifice required. Min Jun's breathing had settled into the rhythm of sleep, but Maya stayed awake a little longer, savoring the peaceful weight of their shared life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove that people could change, that love really was strong enough to overcome the worst parts of human nature. But tonight, they were simply Maya and Min Jun, parents and partners, two people who'd found their way to each other across impossible distances and built something beautiful together. In the garden outside their window, the same stars that had witnessed their first conversation continued their eternal dance across the Miami sky. And somewhere in the city, other couples were probably falling in love, other families were being born, other stories of redemption and transformation were just beginning. The world was full of second chances for those brave enough to take them. Maya smiled in the darkness and let herself drift toward sleep, secure in the knowledge that whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. Just as they always had, just as they always would. The love story that began with a cruel joke in a room full of speechless strangers had become something neither of them could have imagined. It had become a legacy, a testimony to the power of love to transform even the most broken parts of human experience into something beautiful. And it was far from over.